Well, I was initially, I was not told I was being taken up to, first to Watertown and then over to the Sector 4 facility. I was asked to view certain slides at the Sector 4 facility which showed papilloma virus, and these slides were set up under transmission electron microscope. They were mounts. Asked what my knowledge was of papilloma virus. I told them it was limited, and they told me that they needed to take me to another location. So we boarded an aircraft, a very small Learjet, and we flew to a small airstrip. I think we went east. We had to have gone east for the general geography says we went east. After landing, I boarded a chopper. It was like a Black Hawk chopper. As best as my knowledge, I'm not an expert in aviation, military aviation at all. The Black Hawk was blacked out, no pun intended. We flew from the airstrip into what I was told would be part of LANL. From there, I was loaded into a white van, taken up a road, which was very bumpy. They finally, at about 15, maybe 20 minutes, 15 minutes maybe of driving, maybe. That includes the loading time and all that. Allowed to raise the blinds on the van. I saw a couple different road signs. One was a square sign with black lettering, white background. It said R4. I was then told that we were going to be taken into, myself and two other gentlemen, we would be taken into a facility which was codenamed Sweetness. And has Sweetness. They asked me if I'd ever heard of the Dolce facility or the alleged Section D, as you mentioned the other day. I believe that's what you're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
I told them I'd heard of it only briefly, that it allegedly existed, and there was a lot of unique tinkering that went on in the biological field in that facility. We rounded to the left in the van, taken to a large door. The door opened, and we were met by two gentlemen, one of which was wearing a U.S. Marine Corps, we were mentioning about USMC earlier, U.S. Marine Corps uniform. Another one was wearing a polo shirt, which was a grayish polo shirt with a black collar. There was a red patch, a very prominent red patch, with a blackened triangle and something written in the triangle. And you'd ask me whether or not the orientation of the triangle. One of the main points, it was an equilateral triangle. One of the main points was down. So it had a flat, appeared to be flat on top.
Mm-hmm.
And again, as God is my witness, I'm trying to remember what was inside. It bothers me if I can't remember a pattern. But we went inside. They greeted us. We went around to the left. There was a guard who provided us an orange badge. We then went in a series of roll-up doors, which exited to a small foyer over to the right where there was an elevator. The elevator took us down to the first level down. While we were going through the foyer, I noticed there was an FM1 sprayed on the door. The FM1, I don't know what that meant, and I was never not told. If it's anything like the 4-1, or Sector 4 Level 1 at Booth Lake, then I would make the assumption that the 1 stood for Level 1. The FM, I don't know. After traveling down one floor, we exited. This turned into a crazy bit of fun business. We exited the elevator and changed our badges to a blue badge. We re-signed in. We were fingerprinted at that point, brought into a small room, and were told that they had some business that they needed to attend to with us regarding the papillomavirus. They asked whether or not we had been briefed over the papillomavirus. At that point, myself, the two other gentlemen, kind of looked at each other and said, just what we were asked, a few hours ago. They basically, they looked disturbed. It looked as though that there had been somebody who had dropped the ball. We then went with our blue badges in hand to a second set of elevators. Went down one more floor, exited, where they gave us our orange badges back, or it looked like our orange badges. Following our orange badges, we entered into it looked like I've never been to the New York City subway, but it looked like a small monorail system, something out of Disneyland. It's a small world business, little monorail. We traveled probably several hundred yards in the monorail, exited, were greeted by a staff scientist who then told us that he would escort us down the hallway to show us our areas of responsibility. At this point, they had a near civil rebellion on their hands because we didn't know what the hell they wanted us for. I was starting to get worried at this point that they were basically just taking us further and further into the facility, and gradually doors were going to lock. But given the number of guards that they have in the facility, and I should have said all along the way, there were people with what looked like AR-15s. It's not a place to fight anybody. So we went down the hall, went into the briefing room, at which point we were requested to perform an analysis of plasmid recombination involving restriction enzymes on a variety of tissue to remove segments of let us say a retrovirus fragment from a variety of tissue, and to, if possible, associate that retrovirus fragment with the genome of a papillomavirus.
What was the source of this tissue? Did they?
Yeah, the source of the tissue was listed with a J number and a K number. The two scientists that were with me did not immediately know what that meant. Given my experience at Sector 4, I knew fairly quickly that I was dealing with a J-rod sample.
From an extraterrestrial biological source?
Yes.
Okay.
The J-rods are still defined, even though what we know concerning the issue of the paradox, they are still defined as extraterrestrial biological entities, given the dissociation time between Earth and where they end up.
Right.
I don't do things without reason. The two scientists that were with me, I didn't know from Adam previous to the meeting, but I kind of spilled the beans, and I let them know about the K-24 samples at Sector 4. The K-24 samples at Sector 4 specifically involved the research project having to do with Project Aquarius, for which I was one of the working group leaders. Pardon me, these are difficult things to say with the camera staring at.
Oh, I understand. Proceed at your own pace.
I have no choice. But following spilling the beans, we were separated into 3 separate rooms. Now proceeded the interrogation. They wanted to know why I told them about the K-24 sample. And it's the old axiom, if you're asked why, you ask why not. The interrogation ceased fairly quickly at that point, and we were brought into a clean sphere environment, the external capsule of the clean sphere environment, where we were told what the real purpose of the project was. Now I have to be very careful.
Is this something that...
Having had no previous experience with biological warfare, I don't have a polygraph with me here. Having had no previous experience involving with biological warfare materials, it came as quite the surprise to me that they would possibly be considering the usage of an alien retrovirus recombined with a terrestrial viral genome for possible use in VCW activities, or at least possible use in activities which could move toward biological warfare as applied terrestrially. This was inconsistent. The potential, I should say, the potential for its use in that type of an environment was inconsistent with my ethical boundaries. It would have exited the ethical boundaries that I place upon myself as a scientist and that I believe society places on me as a scientist. It also would far divert from moral value boundaries that I believe that my Creator would place upon me as a human being. Therefore, my answer was no. And I thought that was it. And I don't mean my participation. I thought that would have been all she wrote. They agreed to house me in the facility, where I went with my cute little orange badge to a residential unit a little further down the tram line, and one level below that. They did not change my orange badge when I went one level below. My experience in the time that I stayed in a residential unit there was horrifying. You know when you hear human beings screaming in pain?
Yeah.
I think I said what I need to say.
Have you ever seen any similar activity at the Papoose Lake Site S4?
4-3, level 3.
Level
which is
3?
Which is basically considered the housing unit.
Okay.
It's also, it's been called various different things. It's been called the museum. It's been called the housing unit. It's been called the Hall of Tortures. An animal retention facility. One of the horrifying things about the S4 facility is traveling in the elevator system. There is enough of a sound conduit in the elevator system where you can hear the sounds of the test subjects from the third floor while you are in the elevators on various other floors. And the sounds are akin to what I heard at the Delta facility. Every once in a while you can hear the sound of other vertebrates, dogs, cats, monkeys screaming, some of which are just natural behaviors due to how they're being kept. Very sterile. You know, when I say sterile, I mean non-conducive to play environment. More of a housing facility like a kennel. And then you occasionally hear the sounds that you know are one of your brothers or sisters.
Now, J-Rod was kept on the 5th level, the bottom most level, to your knowledge, in a clean environmental?
In a pressurized hydrogen clean sphere, yes.
Now, part of what was the atmospheric mixture that J-Rod was breathing was that differed from our own oxygen, nitrogen atmosphere in what respect?
In the respect that the larger partial pressure of the environment was hydrogen. And in so doing, we have a pressurization and a temperature difference. It was an extremely cold facility within the clean sphere, and there was insufficient oxygen within the gaseous mixture to support human life, human as we understand it presently. In other words, if I would have been introduced into the clean sphere not wearing a TES, I would have died fairly rapidly from asphyxiation and from cold.
Was the mixture flammable? How did they?
Yes.
Okay.
I would have to. Well, it's flammable depending upon, not flammable at the temperature that it was being maintained.
Okay, so it was cold temperature.
It was extremely cold. Yes, I don't remember the exact number.
Okay.
For the clean. It's been a long time ago since I was in there.
Right. When was the last time? 94 was it?
I believe.
95. Okay.
And you're probably referring back to the Q94 document. Because,
yes.
That is in fact a date. The
okay.
94 is in fact a date.
Okay.
And the number would be 109, the infamous 109A, B, C, D, and E. Unfortunately, the rest of the document didn't leak.
Now, on this latest...
I'm sorry. I just thought about how it got out, what happened to my friends.
This request, which you turned down, and at Dulce, and they weren't too happy about, I'm sure.
No. I returned the request down the following morning, at which point I was threatened to be maintained as a permanent resident. And I asked them whether or not I would be taken to a kennel, so to speak. Would that be the result of my residency? And they kind of laughed it off almost carelessly. And I was transported later that afternoon back to the Air Force Base near here in Ellis, where I was not taken back to Watertown, whereupon I was released and to my own recognizance back to my residence.
Did you feel like you gained further insight as to what the program is about and what Majestic is doing?
I know full well what Majestic is doing on a few different levels. I don't know all of the activities. I wouldn't be privy to them, but I know full well the activities involving the association with the J-Rods. I know full well the work that they have undergone involving Rain Dancer, which is a compartmentalized project within the chemtrail project. And I know full well what they're involved with regard to the BCW work involving the retroviruses. And I agree with trying to help, but moving cautiously. The second of the two, I am in disagreement with the philosophy because it was the employment of a helicase restriction virus. And C, I am in total disagreement due to moral and ethical reasons.
Now, was there any indication to you that we're still caught on a timeline that is probably headed for future catastrophe?
We're talking about the doctrine of the convergent timeline.
Yeah, the convergent timeline. You might want to talk about that a little bit here.
Well, as I understand from I got no personal. How can I have personal experience with a time paradox aside from living in the reality within which we exist?
Right.
But from what I understand, from what I've read, and
Right.
from the conversations to which I've been privy, we are in fact living in a chimera, a reality chimera, which hodgepodges together the reality timeline that we would normally associate with moving from A to B, cause to effect, with the nexus being the passage of clock time, and a hodgepodging together, superimposed onto that in our reality, of errors that we made in our future to attempt to go back into our past to correct the problems of our future. Those results have hodgepodged rather than splitting a time stream as maybe such people like Michio Kaku would posit. And I'm no theoretical physicist. I'm just a lowly biologist that looks at patterns. But it hodgepodges together in a real sense to us those things which happened are to happen in the future with our present timeline due to an interruption of the time stream. Instead of splitting into two time streams, what happened is as soon as we mucked around with something, we overlaid a second time stream into the present reality. And the problem with that is, as I understand, we did it more than once. So what we have is a snowball effect of time stream upon time stream.
Okay, I see what you're saying. A loop within a loop.
Yes, more of what I would, from my framework, say if you're moving from A to B, looping like this, and each of those nodes would be an overlay of a time stream. So the more we muck with it, the worse we get.
And the critical period of time is coming up within about 10 years.
The critical period, according to the history of, which has not technically been written according, if you walk outside and say this, they're going to charge you with incoherency.
Right.
I had to say that, I'm sorry. The history's not been written yet, if you walk outside here. But according to the history books that I read, there is a difficulty, unless there further overlays something in the time stream that either corrects it or gets us out of the paradox within which we live, which I don't know how the hell that would happen. I don't pretend to understand that kind of stuff. I'm put a slide in front of me and I'll do a micro on it, okay? Yeah, around 2012. And you know, we're talking about the famous December 21st, 2012, and the Mayan issues. And yes, the catastrophe is alleged to have and to occur at or around that date. Yes.
Now,
and what we can do about it, I have no clue. I have no clue.
But we have a split, so to speak, in the human
following the
species,
catastrophe,
right?
Following the catastrophe, there is a split between those individuals who take a more spiritual path and would move forward to places such as the Moon and Mars, and then onward from there to Orion. And those folks who take a more rudimentary path because it's the alleged spiritual nature of humankind from their philosophy at that time, which led us to not deal with the pressing problems of the day because we were too busy fighting our petty religious battles, that then go off into a more logical, mathematical, numerological philosophy. Those folks who then progress slower because of the lack of ambition, the lack of spiritual ambition, then gradually moving off to the reticulum, the net area, who then become the J-rods.
Now, they become, by what process? Is it some kind of radiational mutation that takes place in their cell structure?
Well, the adaptive radiation occurs time past the catastrophe. This is according to what I've read.
Okay.
Now, the only thing I can say for sure, say for damn sure, is the interaction with the being that I had at Sector 4. Now, I can say nothing authoritatively about the peculiar adaptive radiation that occurred toward Orion, the spiritual half of the species, following the catastrophe. Aside from what, the few things I've read about it and petty chat going on at Joe's, but the J-rods undergo adaptive radiation to the form that we see presently. The word presently is kind of relative when it comes to these issues now, but presently, due to time and exposure after they've moved off to reticulum. The height began to decrease as a function of microevolutionary changes. The eye size, the same. The eyes started getting larger, which, by the way, is an interesting thing, because as the eyes were getting larger, this is before the true darkening occurred via the cover lenses and the double lensic, the double lid system that they have, which is a very beautiful architecture. But something happened with their traveling back into time. It's part of the problem, where they actually landed in the land of enchantment before the structures changed for their eyes.
The land of enchantment.
1947.
Okay. New Mexico, right?
Yes, and I'm not so certain how close the young lady was and how this all fits in even in my own life. Miss June Crane. But the little folks which were obtained there were not fully, so what I would say, fully grazed at the time. And they could not be called J-rods at the time because they had not moved later on to the Gleesick system to gradually, hopefully, try to correct the problem that they're making worse for us. Paradoxes.
So this may have been...
I sound incoherent.
This may have been at some point where they had developed space and time travel, but not at the later stages, maybe the earlier?
Well, their evolution hadn't even been completed at that point. Completed meaning to the point where I had experience of meeting the gentleman that I met at Sector 4.
Right.
It's difficult. We were trained to call them specimens, and they're just frankly not specimens. People are people, but they had not developed the darkening system yet, and in fact that was a microevolutionary change which occurred because of the particular solar issues which were going on a planet that we, meaning the shorter folks, moved off to. And these changes were just beginning to take place at the time when they were working the time travel issues and landed, by whatever means, in 47. So their eyes actually contained a structure, while larger, very similar to ours, which they don't have now. But that may account for the varying opinions between the darkened eyes and the structure of the eyes that the eyewitnesses provided from, I guess it was the Brazil Ranch or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I understand there was some sort of differential between the two descriptions,
Mm-hmm.
and I've not seen any of the bodies or anything like that from the Roswell issue.
Okay.
So I can't speak for certain. I'm more.
You didn't
asked me to freewheel on the situation. So
right, and you didn't specifically get briefed on what happened at Roswell.
Well,
I take.
in the briefing books there were mentions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there was probably a very heavy specific briefing in there, but when I was first brought up to the Groove area, when we were provided with the briefing books,
Mm-hmm.
frankly I didn't care. I thought I was up there, to be very honest with you, to work some sort of bioremediation project.
Mm-hmm.
More leaning to what ended up in reality is the Rain Dancer program. The Rain Dancer and the chemtrail program, because I was extremely interested at the time, not only in histology and histopathology, but I was also extremely interested in biospherics,
Mm-hmm.
which is what got me interested in forwarding me with the NASA folks and the ABL project, the Biological Laboratory Project, et cetera. So I wasn't particularly interested. And in fact, before I experienced the gentleman in the clean sphere, I frankly honestly thought that those people who believed in aliens were tinfoil heads. And
Now,
on my face.
were there, to your knowledge, other aliens at the Dulce facility, or were you not made aware of any?
I was in fact made aware in a conversation that there are processes underway whereby they are in fact producing hybrids.
Okay.
And this is it's inconceivable. We're in the middle of a paradox as it is. We've got our own progeny making our paradox worse. And we're adding to it. God only knows where this is going to lead to, simply because we're producing these I don't want to say monsters, because I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
To be very honest with you, I do know that we've taken the process of natural selection and thrown it out the window.
Mm-hmm.
And not only have we done that, we've done so willfully and with negligence toward our own future. It's extremely angering to me, because I'm watching this. Boy, I'm going to have to watch my language here. I'm watching us muck our world up worse with indifference.
With arrogance.
Almost. As soon as you add two things together which are not meant to be together. It's the old thing. If you want to go into the popular movies of dinosaurs and men being separated by 65 million years of history in a Jurassic Park movie or whatever, the rape of the natural world. Well, by God, he got it right. We're raping her. And damn us for it.
And what
Damn us for it.
what do they hope to accomplish by producing hybrids?
That they didn't tell me. Not specifically. I can theorize. I can theorize what they're doing is they're taking the Aquarius project and they're taking it to the next step,
Mm-hmm.
the next level, if you will. Kind of like taking the atom bomb and turning it into the hydrogen bomb. No matter what, evil comes out of it.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the Q94 document, you made some rather strong statements against doing exactly this.
Wild types.
Wild types.
Mm-hmm. See, the problem is this. We have viruses which are resident within our genome. When you begin combining, cloning, if you will, serological cloning, when you begin doing cloning, that's a better term, when you begin combining the retroviruses which are present in our genome, what we would say naturally, and God only knows what's really in there because of the reality within which we're dealing. And those things which we know are non-resident, not normally resident, what are we possibly going to release? Can any biologist tell us what the origin of viruses are?
No.
They tell us that they are evolutionary archives, throwbacks to a time from time immemorial in the evolutionary history of life on Earth. Really? I was asked about inconsistencies a little while ago about USN versus USMC. I brought out a consistency having to do with my own birth date, an inconsistency. 1960 versus 1964. And I said, gosh, gee willikers, I was awfully young then. Well, how young were we when life evolved on this planet? Or in fact was seeded? How young were we then? How do we know? We don't. Thus is also, it causes the resident danger of even the project within which I'm currently working.
So,
Which is the Starflower project.
It's a subset of the Starflower project.
Subset.
Well, I originally prodded its name the Lotus, and Starflower ended up being an umbrella project above it.
But I see that spelled two ways, S-T-A-R, S-T-A-A-R.
You see it the way that I originally envisioned it, which is S-T-A-R,
Okay.
and then you see it the way that they applied it within the actual classification system, which is S-T-A-A-R.
Does that refer to a group?
That, in fact, does, well, it's a bean box. We refer to them as bean boxes. I'm in a particular bean box, which is called Aquarius.
Okay.
There is a star bean box. And that group specifically deals with time issues, with issues involving the larger milieu of extraterrestrial interactions, and with the historical issues involving the imprints of the extraterrestrials on civilization past and how, in fact, those imprints affect us today. That's as I understand it. See, but that's not my bean box.
that's star.
Yes, S-T-A-A-R.
That's that strategic, alien.
Not my bean box.
Yeah.
I gotta go back to something that you said before we moved into star.
We each get our little funky Aquarius.
I gotta go back to something you said. You said that terrestrial viruses were an archive, a throwback. However, previously you had said that they had asked you to manipulate non-terrestrial source material and lock it up with something that was terrestrial. So if we're trying to tap a source material that is extraterrestrial and viral in nature, are we going back into the extraterrestrial history to try to find an extraterrestrial ancient virus that we don't know anything about the extraterrestrials now?
Well, first of all, I didn't say that. First of all, I have to correct you. I didn't say that viruses were evolutionary archives. I said that it's currently thought that viruses are evolutionary archives.
Okay.
Secondly, are we dipping into the primordial soup of the human genome and possibly going to capture other encoded retroviruses and activate them as a result of the present time dipping of our label? Yes, possibly we are. Thirdly, Do we know for certain when the percentage of the human genome, which we know is virally and even some other fragments, thyroid fragments, do we know the percentage that came via natural selection, microevolutionary change? I'm not going to have myself classified as a monkey's uncle. Although I could accept it, that's the ultimate reality. Oh, why not? If I can accept what I've seen already in my life, I ought to be able to accept that. Will we be able to discern between the two, I think is the question.
That's my question.
The answer is no, unless we are receiving more information from the Orion folks, wherever the hell they are, truly. We, the spiritual ascended beings or whatever, I don't know. I don't have any direct experience with it. We're receiving more information from the J-Rods than which I'm privy. Then the answer is, if we're not, the answer is no, we don't. If we are, possibly. I don't know what the nature of the information would be that's coming from them, because they're not providing me with that information.
What you get is compartmentalized. Just exactly what they think you need to know.
Now look. If it comes out that we are in the fix that we're in, what is that going to do? How is it going to help or hinder? Hell, I don't know. Would the collective mind of present humanity bring us toward a positive answer? Look at the state of the world.
Couldn't get much worse.
What are we going to do? Are we going to hand this to Kofi Annan and the United Nations? And I'm not meaning to belittle the man. He's an intelligent, wonderful man. But what the hell is he going to do with it? What the hell is it? I'm looking at aisles here. What the hell is the United Nations going to do with it? What the hell will the collective mind of humanity, given our present mentality, do? This may bring us to a faster demise by increasing more fractionation of the human populace. We haven't even figured out yet that this God and that God and this God and that God are all part of the same God. So how the hell are we going to figure out that problem? No matter what you want to call him, it, her, whatever. The beautiful thing from which we come. People want to own everything except the solutions. The thing which will free us is if we own the solution. But they want to own the process getting to it. I've been yakking. Basically, the clean sphere would raise up through a diaphragm iris from the floor. They kept him in a separate location. I don't know what they were doing while he was being staged there before we would come in. They never told me that. Okay. However, the 4-5 designation was given specifically to make him comfortable because of the addition of the two numbers.
4 and 5, maybe.
Which is in fact why they built 9 on the Galileo level, 9 bays. And there's been a number of people, I think, in the past that Robert Lazar, I believe, mentioned 9. But going into There would be an entry team, usually a team of one, that would go into the clean sphere at the time. And we would be given a medical, suited, well, catheterized, plugged, and suited, tested out on for our internal pressurization as a total encapsulated situation. It was a spacesuit for lack of a better term.
When you were ready and you were satisfied that it was what did you do?
There was a series of interlocking valves where we would enter onto a gantry system, and the two assisting scientists would come up the gantry. For instance, it would be me that would be entering the clean sphere. We would have to get an okay over the PA system before we were allowed to enter into the pressurization valve outside of the clean sphere. It was ritualistically we would turn around and get the okay from the watchers, the wise men, who would give us the okay from above in the observation pavilion. Following that, we would hook to an internal. It was a conduit, if you will, that would go from external to internal with regard to our oxygen pressurization and the nitrogen oxygen mixture that we breathe. I would be allowed into the little entry bay there. The door would be locked behind me. Then I would go through a series of protocols to test out my breathing. They would check my heart rate again. And then they would, following that, do a micropressurization inside the entry bay. The micropressurization was for the purpose of testing the continuity of the suit, to make sure that there were no problems. Okay, and they had pressure sensors and whatever else the engineers were watching. Following an okay, then there would be a full pressurization. Once the full pressurization would be complete, I would rotate my hoses, because this was not a self-contained system whatsoever. And that was one of the things that kind of surprised me, because when I was told that I would be entering in for the purpose of removing the emulsion samples, that I was going to be in, I basically said, well, I started thinking about the Neil Armstrong days and all of that business, and I thought, well, that would be kind of cool. And I found that I was hooked to hoses. It was more a, I won't say glove box situation, but it was damn close to it because we were tethered constantly. It was not an internal system, a backpack, if you will, where I would carry my own buffers and all of that. I would then have to go through a series of protocols once the door would open into the clean sphere. I am privy to his prohibited name. However, it's been requested that I not provide it. And that includes not providing it to the people who oversee me. It was private between he and myself because it's considered within their sociological structure improper to have personal names. So I'm not going to tell anyone. I would enter one step into the clean sphere and the door would be closed. I would then rotate. There was a barrel system. I would rotate my hoses around. And then I would be asked, and this was the great charade, I would be asked to stand and display a hand showing that I am a friendly human being wishing to interact, which was, I guess, the Sigma team, linguistics team within Sigma set up with him. Following that, I would step over to a teleprompter, which was set up as fused to the clean sphere glass. And this was the great charade. And why I call it the great charade is he and I were communicating all along. Yes, they do communicate via telepathy, and I don't know how they do it precisely. The best thing I can guess is that it's something akin to what I'd say the sonar element in a dolphin. That's the best guess I could give. I'm not, again, a biophysicist. But we would be communicating all along. And I would have to step over to the teleprompter machine and raise my hand again as a picture of a human being would be raised, and there would be a series of numbers communicating to him, number system. Meaning that I'm a friendly human being wishing to interact. Meanwhile, I'm asking him how he's feeling. And he's telling me that he is well. I am asking him how he is being treated, and he is basically giving me a laundry list of complaints. While this is going on, because I'm smiling, and he is attempting to, this looks more like a wince because of the current physical state, but the incandescence and they would be asking me concurrently, what's going on? Knowing full well that he has the ability to talk in that manner, and I would be saying, I'm just standing here trying to go through my protocol, sir. Now, they knew damn well. They knew damn well that there was communication going on, and they knew damn well that we weren't talking. And after the number of experiences that I had with the gentleman, I think I can say the word we. Following that, I would explain to him, while it was being explained on the board, I would just simply say to him, this is what I need to do if I have his permission. He would then move usually from his hunched position over at the opposite side of the queen sphere into a more standing position, the best that he could do. And I would walk toward him and begin the protocols for the removal of the evulsion samples. Another bay would be accessed for a pressurized removal. All of the samples were removed via a pressurized system. As soon as I had the needle in place in the proper position, I would press a button which would alert the external team that the sample was ready. And they, in fact, would fire the suction unit, and that would remove the sample from his body. The sample would then travel via a closed conduit to a separate pressurization area where it would be handled for analysis. I had a number of these. I personally conducted over 200, maybe 300 in fact, removals. These were extremely fine gauge needles, but they also caused extreme pain. And when he would scream out in pain, I would feel the pain that he would feel.
What was the determination of what was wrong with the J-rod?
Well, on a biological basis, they were suffering from a peripheral nervous degeneration.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was asked specifically to look into. If there were other physiological problems, other system problems, that wasn't within my team's purview. They were suffering from the peripheral nervous degeneration closely associated with what we would call a monoclonal gammopathy. And it's termed as an MGUS, an uncertain significance monoclonal gammopathy. They also had a peripheral nervous degeneration, primary peripheral degeneration problem, which was associated with a heat loss problem to their peripheral nerves. And I was asked specifically to find out the origin of that problem, having no idea at the time about all this time paradox movements and all of that. There's no clue whatsoever about it. So I was basically just trying to help a fellow being. Finally, it was determined that the only way would be a cloning method, clone therapy, genetic therapy, and that the only way to proceed with that therapy would be to produce hybrid associations between present genomes, human genomes, because we were finally letting them know this is a person, present human genome with their present genome. We tinkered a little bit with, excuse me, where's lines a little wiser again here. Fresh human media. And I'm not going to get into the origin of that fresh human media. Found that we could, by associating genetically the fresh human media with his media, a partial alleviation of the peripheral neuropathy. This then led to the next level that we were chatting about earlier. And it also led to the end of the Q94 document of reference earlier.
Now, can you say for a moment, Dan, what motivates you to now disclose this material
Sure.
To the public?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. That's not a problem at all.
Mm-hmm.
We speak in America freedom. In 1986, I was told all that I could be all you can be business. I was not told that there would be a circumventing of the United States Constitution for me to be all I could be. I was not told that there was a circumventing of the United States Constitution. In the group for which I've worked. I feel a pressing need for freedom. And having grown up in a reasonably free environment, having signed myself into the slavery that I now find myself within, it's pretty easy for me to say enough is enough. Now on to the higher values that people would probably want to say the real reason why I want out. That's the personal reason why I want the hell out.
Do you know who's controlling this show? From the top? Hold on.
Well, seeing why don't they know that I'm seated here today? I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. Now, whether or not they want this information evolved and they're aware that I'm sitting here, or that they're just aware that I'm sitting here, I don't know. I don't know.
Now,
That's the big question. Is it part of what I heard was a project called Patchwork, which would be a spoon feeding of the people of information? Because I only know a certain amount. I don't know everything. Who's running the show? You ask who's running the show?
Yeah.
I've come to know a group. Well, I shouldn't say I've come to know the group. I've come to know of the group called the Committee of the Majority. This committee is built of 33 men. They are Masonic-based, and they are people who sit in the highest positions of privilege and power, both within the United States government and other governments.
Not just restricted. This committee has members not restricted to the United States alone. Then.
As I understand, yes. However, it would be difficult for me to start naming names of people that I don't know for sure are seated there. It would also be dangerous to the very cause for which I sat here, for freedom.
How does this group Majestic 12 fit into that?
The Majestic 12 is a group of scientists and scientific advisors who work for the Committee of the Majority. Now, I have had occasion, when I was involved with Aquarius, to have to send to the so-called Majestic 12 The documents to which you were privy, the leaked material from my deceased friends, and I had association with them on that level. One of the Majestic 12, or I should say was alleged to be a member of the Majestic 12, was present at the Queen's Fair when I was in the Queen's Fair. I've mentioned his name before. This again may be risking the cause of my freedom because of the very problems we face now as a society. So I've got to be careful about that, whether or not that sacrifices my freedom.
Okay.
His first name is Vignev.
All right.
That's as far as I will go from that. And I have personal experience that man named Vignev was in fact present at Sector 4 when I was involved with the J-Rod. Coming out from Project Aquarius, I had come to a closer association by means of up and down the line, the conduit, with the Committee of the Majority. I believe that the Majestic 12 group is only associated with the particular extraterrestrial projects that are going on within the community, and not associated with the entirety of the scientific projects which are going on within the community. The project currently working with, for instance, is not per se an extraterrestrial subject-based project. So the fact that I've been told not to route things to the Majestic Committee of 12 concerning the documents that I've been producing is kind of indicative to me that they're only dealing within a certain subset of the scientific projects. More of that I don't know. More than that I can't say. I can't say because that would just be stabbing at the stars.
So essentially, the Committee of the Majority is above the Majestic.
The umbrella group. Again, as I understand, they're Scottish Rite Masonic based. I think that they may be a little bit lenient on me because my grandfather was a master of our Mason. Maybe that's why the leniency. But I don't see the leniency. I see the he's running short.
Now,
He's
is there any,
starting to run short with me, and you can hear the clarion call in the distance,
is there any particular significant, you were mentioning a cycle of 9 years that these aliens seem to be adhering to, and the next period coming up would be that of 2003,
yes.
as I understand it.
Yes.
Is there any insight on what might change?
The only thing I know for sure is that their relationship with us is treaty based.
You mean they,
As in the alleged Orion visitors and confirmed reticulum visitors. It's a treaty-based relationship. Okay. That treaty and negotiations for further cooperative work is due for re-upping, and that re-upping is due in 2003. Now, I've been kind of hurried up with the project to which I'm currently assigned. I've been told to have a working model of this theory presentable by March 15th next year. Now, there may be more than coincidence having to do with the relationship between those two dates, or it may be entirely coincidental. That I'm not sure. But why they're letting this happen, I don't know. I have not been able to move right or left without getting watched. That I know.
And BJ over here
I don't think they're doing it out of the good graces.
went to meet with you one night, right? And she had an encounter instead.
I'm aware
What was that?
of
With
what
three classic Men in Black? Is that right?
They had the classic look. They had the classic feel. They didn't feel right. They were wearing black. They were wearing like a fedora.
Mm-hmm.
It was terrifying. It was terrifying. Instead of meeting Dan, I was met. And I don't know what these people were. And I don't...
They showed no expression.
No expression in their faces. It was terrifying. They spoke, and it was like they had rehearsed what they were saying because they couldn't speak naturally. It was wrong. The whole thing was wrong. It felt wrong. They walked wrong. They moved wrong. They were pale. I finally broke and ran. I was scared to death. And I haven't been able to go back to that park since. I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
My experience is that your description is consistent with gentlemen with whom I've had previous encounter that would come in, observe what was going on. A few of them attempted to interact with me, and frankly, I don't care to interact with them because, like I've said before, it might look like a duck and it might quack like a duck, but if it ain't a duck, it ain't a duck. And it's definitely ain't a duck. But
I would make you feel threatened. I was definitely
well, their presence, period, is threatening. And the reason why it's threatening is because you can. Have you had experience of being in the presence of a dead body?
Oh, yes, I have.
Okay. An animated dead body.
No.
Isn't that approximately the same?
Oh, my God, that
An
is...
animated dead body.
That is so close. It is unbelievable.
It's not, it sounds like something out of an idiotic horror movie, but it gives to not overuse the word, an alien feeling.
Mm-hmm.
They sang me happy birthday
Is that right?
one year. Two of them.
Well, they're like ghouls.
That's it.
I don't know what the hell they are, to be very honest.
Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of what we would think of in our...
It felt ghoulish.
Yeah.
It felt ghoulish. When they walked toward me, it felt ghoulish. It felt like they were taking every step. They had to think about each step. They weren't moving normally.
They seem out of place. They
Dan?
seem out of place. Or maybe it is that we feel out of place being around them. I don't know. But they seem out of place.
Dan, we should begin to wrap this up. Is there anything you would like to make a statement or something as if you were talking to, like the large audience I was talking to up in the Bay Area? What would you like to say to the people?
Aside from the fact that I don't believe that the Queen of England is a reptilian.
Yeah. I mean, is there some kind of statement you would like to make? Or...
Well, I could sit here and be self-serving in that statement, but there are things which are much more important than my selfish nature. We are walking toward, at the moment, a time of human destiny. The decisions that we are making at present are enhancing the potential for the ill-fated decisions that we are supposed to make in our future to occur. I hope and I pray that we make the right decisions. However, I have no idea what those right decisions are. And the only thing that I can hold to personally, taking off the guise of the biologist, as being a human being,
Mm-hmm.
the only thing that I can hope is that whoever he or she or it is, we wish to call him Creator, that protective force which has surrounded humanity since its inception, I pray that he's listening to our weeping and pulls us back from the precipice of our own designs.
Okay. I appreciate you very much giving this interview tonight. And I'm not sure that you'll be decorated or promoted for it, but
I don't know within whose armies.
yes. But I think we all appreciate it, and whoever in the future listens to this and watches this tape, I think they will be given much food for thought.